On April 20th, 1777, a French merchant ship arrived in the harbor at Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The Amphitrite, named for Poseidon's wife, goddess of the sea. Its cargo was intended for General Washington's Continental Army. Cannons and cannonballs, muskets, gunflints and musket balls, 6 tons of gunpowder, tents, uniforms, blankets, tools, tin plates, and more. The French wanted a prolonged war between Britain and America. The longer the British were occupied with the colonies, the less they could do against France, in Europe and in the Caribbean, where they competed for control of the lucrative sugar trade and for imperial expansion. By spring of 1777, Washington had won the battles of Trenton and Princeton. France was encouraged, and so they sent a cargo of military goods. Still, they wanted more evidence of America's prospects for victory. Could the Patriots actually defeat the British Empire? From Saratoga, New York, came a resounding yes. In December 1776, Benjamin Franklin arrived in Paris as the first diplomat to ever represent the United States of America. He was there to convince France to enter the war as America's military ally. With victories at Trenton on December 26 and then at Princeton on January 3rd, Franklin's case was made easier to make. If, however, the French were encouraged by American success, the British were undeterred. In April 1777, British Commander William Howe sent 1,900 troops to Danbury, Connecticut, in order to destroy American stockpiles there. British and Hessian forces burned thousands of barrels of meat and flour, clothing, tents, and wagons. Roughly 24 homes were set on fire. A number of the town's residents were killed, their dead bodies tossed into their burning homes. As a storehouse, Danbury was destroyed. Washington's army, plagued by supply shortages from the beginning of the war, was now without one of its most important sources. Despite recent victories at Trenton and Princeton, American military prospects had been weakened. Sensing an advantageous moment for his side, British General John Burgoyne devised a plan to end the war quickly. From Canada, he would march down the corridor formed by Lake Champlain and the Hudson River. Along the way, he would recapture Fort Ticonderoga. The fort was vital since it controlled routes to Canada and to the Hudson Valley, all the way down to New York City. At Albany, Burgoyne's forces and 2 other armies were to meet, including Commander William Howe's. The goal, to permanently cut off New England from the rest of the rebel states. In July of that year, when the British reached Fort Ticonderoga, they had the Americans outnumbered more than 2-1. The garrison commander, Arthur St. Clair, sized the situation and slipped away. Burgoyne and his men found the fort already abandoned. The road south from there proved more difficult. It passed through exceptionally swampy terrain. The traveling British army needed to resupply. In an attempt to pillage supplies from farms to the east, 1,000 of Burgoyne's troops met fierce resistance. At the Battle of Bennington, the Patriot militia killed over 200 British and Hessians and took over 700 prisoners. Commander Howe had redirected his army to Philadelphia instead. When the American and British forces finally clashed in September 1777, it was a few miles north of Albany, in the fields of Saratoga and on the nearby heights. General Horatio Gates commanded 7,000 American forces that day, including Daniel Morgan and 500 Virginia riflemen. Burgoyne led 6,500 British regulars and Hessians. Though outnumbered, the British held their own in the first stage of the battle, but they suffered many losses. By October 7, about 11,000 Patriots successfully engaged 5,900 British forces. Defeated, Burgoyne and his army retreated to Saratoga. They had hoped to escape, but by October 16th, the British were surrounded in all directions by 17,000 American forces. Burgoyne was forced to surrender to American General Gates, which he did on October 17th. Altogether, the British suffered nearly 1,400 casualties at Saratoga, the Americans just over 300. Among the injured Patriots was Benedict Arnold. General Washington assigned him to Philadelphia while he recovered. Burgoyne handed over 42 cannons and more than 7,000 muskets. The decisive victory at Saratoga was a turning point in the War for Independence. New England had not been cut off from the rest of the states. Everywhere, Patriot morale rose. As for the French, Saratoga was the proof they needed. 4 months following the battle, Benjamin Franklin led a successful effort to secure America's first military alliance. In February 1778, King Louis XVI signed a treaty that established France and the United States of America as military allies. France formally acknowledged American independence. The United States also agreed to aid France should England attack her. America would not strike another treaty of military alliance until after World War II in the early years of the Cold War.